Carrie. It's a fun time. It's about this girl and her ultra-religious mom who shuns everything that is progressive or contemporary or fun. And Carrie, gets made fun of at school a lot for the way she dresses, for the way she talks, for the way she acts, kind of as a product of her home life. But all of a sudden, Carrie, through her, emotional turmoil, starts to experience some different capabilities, some different powers. And you might guess where it goes from there. Lots of chaos ensues. I'm going to try not to spoil any of these books, but I highly recommend Carrie. That was another one that I read in like a couple sittings. I'm going to go ahead and say Carrie is, let's see here. Carrie is A tier. We're going to put Carrie in awesome job, Stephen. Awesome job. Man, I'm not much of a critic when it comes to Stephen King books. A lot of these are like in the nostalgia zone for me. So it might be difficult to really put any of these, but I'll try to be as critical as possible. Salem's Lot. The criticism is not going to start here. This is like the first real, like, legitimate adult level reading novel that I ever read. I read it in like 8th or 9th grade back in high school. When I think back to when I fell in love with reading, this was the book that did it for me. It's about this little town called Jerusalem's Lot in Maine, where Stephen King sets a lot of his books. And things get wonky, right? There's this creepy house. There are seemingly vampires involved with this town. There's a weird businessman that gets involved with it. And just a lot of crazy stuff happens. Salem's Lot, a book I could read and reread over and over again. Also some decent, like, limited series for Salem's Lot. So Salem's Lot, going straight to the S tier for super duper great job, Steven. Super job. So we're 2 down. On to the third one. Again, these are in order, too. What a treat you have today. The Shining by Stephen King up next. I read this book back in college, and I read it while like fall was transitioning into winter. And I think like the first snow of the season happened during my reading of The Shining, and I was lucky enough to have not seen the movie before I read the book, which was, awesome. If you're familiar at all with the movie, which I feel like it would be hard not to be, it's incredibly famous. It's one of the most like critically acclaimed horror films and like Stanley Kubrick films of all time. It's hard not to be familiar with that movie, but it's all about, the Overlook Hotel. Things are going crazy there. This down and out writer and educator goes and has to stay there during the winter. He accepts the job of caretaker along with his wife and his son, Danny. And boy, do things get spicy in that hotel. There's haunted aspects to it. There's, you could argue, like possession going on. A lot of crazy things happening in The Shining. That I'm going to go ahead and put in S tier for swell times in Colorado. The Shining by Stephen King. What a lovely one. Come on, I'm trying to be critical here. It's not going well so far. The next one, 3 down, number 4, The Stand. This was definitely a really fun read if you're a fan of like post-apocalyptic and sort of like dystopian fiction, but just to be critical. I'm gonna put The Stand in A tier for a lot of pages that I enjoyed. A for effort. The Stand. I mean, honestly, if I were doing this based on feeling, emotion, nostalgia, all these would be an S tier. But again, critic Connor is here for this video. The next one we're going to look at, The Long Walk. This is an interesting book in a series that are considered the Bachman Books. One really cool thing about Stephen King that you may or may not know, if you're familiar with his work, you probably know. Stephen King, just to sort of prove it to himself that he still had it, that it wasn't just his name selling the books, but it was actually his skill and his craft as a writer. He wrote under the pseudonym Richard Bachman, just to prove that people were buying books based on his writing, not on the name Stephen King. And obviously that didn't last for very long. People found out that Richard Bachman and Stephen King were one and the same. But this was one of the first one released, at least, in a series of novels called the Bachman Books. The Long Walk is a really fun one. It's really short though, so just because it's shorter and it feels like it could use some more sort of like backstory and some more character description, and you care about the characters, and it's really impressive how quickly Stephen King gets you, or Richard Bachman rather, gets you to care about the characters in a very short amount of time. I'm going to put The Long Walk in C tier for, come on, Stephen, I wanted more pages for this book, because man, was it fun. Like, the concepts that he explores in the Bachman books, they're all a lot more dark. Surprisingly, it's hard to get darker than Stephen King, but in his Bachman books, a lot of it explores like dystopian, like some of it could be considered like speculative fiction in these weird dystopian worlds. And this one has to do with sort of almost like lottery process where people enter this competition to see who can walk the longest, and whoever is the last one standing wins, all this money. And it's that the premise is pretty much simple as that. It's a bunch of kids competing against each other to see who is the last one standing. But things get dark. The way the military runs it, people get killed throughout it, and it's hard to put down. This is another very quick read, but gotta put it in C tier for Critic Connor. The next one, The Dead Zone. This was a really interesting book. I enjoyed this. Also a great film with the one and only Christopher Walken as the main character. More cowbell. We're going to put The Dead Zone, just by comparison, in C tier for cowbell. More cowbell. C for Christopher Walken. C for The Dead Zone. I love The Dead Zone, though. Guy gets knocked on the head, kind of goes into a coma, and he can sort of predict the future. And things happen, and then he comes across this politician who is going to come to prominence in office, and he tries to overcome what comes with that and stop it from happening. So The Dead Zone, definitely a fun one. Firestarter, gonna go ahead and put that in, since it's empty, B tier. Another fun one, Firestarter. The kids, they get powers. This one kid, the story. The kid has like telekinesis, can set things on fire, and again, chaos ensues. It's a fun one. Again, a lot of these books, quick reads, hard to put down, but Firestarter. We're going to put it in B tier. All right, on to the next one. Roadwork, that's easy. Another Bachman book. Haven't read it, don't know anything about it. So we can move on very quickly from that. So we have 8 down, 2 to go. Stephen King, Cujo, the next one, number 9 out of 10 in our video today. Cujo. Gonna have to put that in C for Cujo. You saw it coming. I know you saw it coming. Not gonna spoil it, but anytime there is a killer dog involved in a book, and it's Stephen King, and bad things happen to bad people, you can guess where it is going. And as a person who loves dogs, and this book is about a very, very bad dog, gotta put it in C tier. C tier for come on, Cujo, should have been a good boy. Yeah, spoiler free. We're moving on to number 10, The Running Man. Another Bachman book. So 3 Bachman books in this series of 10. This was a fun book, and just because there is not anything in D tier, we're going to put it there for damn, that was a good book, but left me wanting a little more. The Running Man. Again, he explores a lot of fun, sort of speculative, futuristic, dystopian type of themes and settings and topics in these Bachman books. This one is similar, where it's, again, this competition in the future where a person gets selected and they have to outrun. He ends up having to outrun the government, and there is a money prize involved, and people usually don't make it very far, and he makes it very far in it. And again, lots of darkness in those Bachman books, being The Long Walk, Running Man, and I would probably have to guess Roadwork. So, hope you enjoyed my first ever tier list. I know I enjoyed it. I did my best. I forgot the rest, and that's what I have. I didn't spoil any of the books for you either, so you're welcome.